Hi everybody, my name is Jimmy Carroll. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Tech B2B Marketing, and welcome to this special edition of the Manufacturing Matters podcast. I have the pleasure today of being joined by my colleague and friend Winn Hardin, and along with a great group here, Dale Daring of Teledyne, Jason Covar of The Imaging Source, and David Dechow of Motion AI. First guys, thanks so much for taking the time, really appreciate it. Glad to have you here.
Sure.
So I want to jump right in, and you guys had some meetings earlier today at the A3 Business Forum about strategy meetings and machine vision in general. So let's just start off right now, and hopefully all you guys can chime in a little bit. But what are you excited about most in machine vision right now? And I guess David, if you want to start down on your end.
Well, I know that we like to talk a lot about emerging technologies and what's the latest and what are the trends in machine vision. Mm-hmm. I'm most excited, though, that machine vision as a fundamental enabling technology continues to be widely accepted. I see more and more people using machine vision, right. And not the pure cutting edge technologies, but the fundamental machine vision technologies to enable automation in a wide variety of marketplaces. The marketplace usage is expanding as well. And just to say that, not to completely cut out the emerging technologies, there's a lot of excitement around some of those as well, and really technological advances, even in things we've been using for years, like 3D imaging, hyperspectral imaging, and so on.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Dale?
I'm excited about, I guess, we're looking forward to a year of growth, which is one thing that's always exciting to look forward to.
Yeah.
And, there's integration of technologies today, whether it's the integration of AI into imaging that's enabling better defect detection and acceleration, I guess, of imaging use into mm-hmm. different applications that perhaps traditionally was difficult.
Right.
Or also the integration of technologies, whether you have SWIR imaging and different wavelengths that are being used, or hyperspectral imaging, and all mm-hmm. these are finding new applications to solve. Mm-hmm. And new ways to give people more data about the applications or the products that they're trying to inspect. So these are some interesting trends.
Well, I know we're going to talk more about SWIR and AI specifically in a little bit here. So,
excellent.
How about you, Jason?
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing for us in the vision part of the business is vision's a component in everything that we see. You know, we talk about automation as a whole, but we're an integral part of that. And I think that's exciting for all of us, as well as some of the newer technologies in the sensors themselves is something I'm starting to see that will funnel down to the market.
Right.
But I think, this will be interesting for us to see as the year goes on.
That's a perfect segue to the next question we were going to ask, which was, we've heard for years that machine vision tends to follow robotics around the world. Right, you're going to get a lot of robotics adoption, and the machine vision, they'll start doing more advanced VGR type systems. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between robotics and machine vision right now? And is it a complementary and beneficial to everybody, or how's that go?
I'll jump in. I think that
Sure.
I think that first of all, I like what you said about machine vision following robotics, but I want to clarify that a little bit.
Sure.
Machine vision, we've always taken the marketplace and the let's say the success of machine vision and tracked it with robotics, much like we track it with the manufacturing index, other manufacturing indices.
Right.
And machine vision as a marketplace, or as in terms of its success in the marketplace, in the numbers does track robotics. But I see machine vision as a little bit of a different beast when we think of it with robotics. Mm-hmm. Machine vision is without a doubt an enabling technology for robotics. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I think really emerging in the last perhaps 10 or 15 years is that more advanced robotics must have machine vision in order for it to succeed.
Right.
And in some cases, the marriage between robotics and machine vision has become seamless. It's become something that we expect to see, expect to work, to just plain work, mm-hmm. but it's not a trivial thing. what we sometimes see as being the marriage between robotics and machine vision while working is still you mentioned emerging, is still an emerging trend, is still an emerging technology in the marketplace. We had a great discussion this morning about that. Robots, I think, many of us think in the market that robots are becoming a technology that needs machine vision as an enabling force. And that's great for vision. That's also great for automation in general and advancing automation in a variety of ways, even into the more esoteric robotics like humanoid robotics and AMRs.
Right.
I would just echo some
Please.
of that. I mean, if you look at a technology generation, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you had robotics or automation that perhaps didn't require imaging, but those are solved. Those applications are done a long time ago. The applications today that they're working to solve are things like fruit picking or agriculture, things like that. Well,
Right.
I mean, they're not in the same location every time.
Exactly.
You must have some sensing in order to tell where they are. So image sensing is today required for all of the applications, I think, that robotics is exploring or advancing. And even not just visible imaging, but infrared imaging and different kinds of information that you want to gather, like in fruit.
Absolutely.
You need the ripeness
Yeah.
and things like that. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
need the size and the shape so you know how to pick it. So there's
And ag tech, it particularly excites me an awful lot,
Mhm.
you know, and just food production in general, right? That industry has typically been a laggard. But I hear you. And so it sounds like it's very complementary and it's hoping to grow the market potential for both technologies, right? It's flexible. Is how we manufacturing products also impacting that? And we've talked about for years about flexible manufacturing, short runs, more customization, things of that nature. Are we having a give and take where as machine vision and robotics get better, they're enabling manufacturing industries, OEMs, product producers to actually do more customization or maybe come faster to market, or I'm not really sure. But is it a give and take both between our customers and?
Yeah, I think there has to be, right? I think there has to be the adaptation of, if you're using a robotic process,
Yeah.
there are certain constraints that, make things easier. And just to use the fruit example, in our area they grow a lot of fruit trees, like apple trees. Even the way they're growing the apple trees today are different so that they can more easily automatically pick them.
Gotcha.
So, if you have a huge apple tree and you have a very complex branch structure, it's very difficult for mechanically to get in there. Whereas if you grow them sort of two-dimensionally, then it's very easy to access them.
I'll be darned. So it's actually impacting the pruning of the tree.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's wicked cool.
Dale, step down this path just a little bit, but one of the things that is, again, another very exciting thing about machine vision in today's marketplace is its close marriage with the ideas of smart manufacturing, smart factories. The idea, and you mentioned, Winn, of having more flexible automation, but not only flexible automation, but also automation that is a data consumer of information that we can provide as machine vision technologists.
Yeah.
We can provide that data to a big data consuming factory and in turn allow that factory to make better decisions, to process better, to improve their productivity because they can collect the data now that we have available.
Agreed, and I think it creates efficiencies. I think where you're going with that, and that efficiency is then pushed to either more productivity or to other parts of the overall process. And it does come from imaging. So I think we've all gone into customer environments where you first put vision in and they start to think, oh, with this data, to David's point, look, what more can we do?
Yeah.
And so you compound that efficiency created to then, further produce.
And it's always blown my mind that machine vision had this SPC ability to monitor, identify problems before, but so few customers back in the day were really leveraging it. It seems like the world now is just completely embracing the data lake as we all know.
Exactly.
So it's nice that the world's finally catching up and leveraging what machine vision can deliver.
I think food production is a good jumping off point to a question I wanted to ask you guys, and I agree. It does seem like food production is an industry or market that's ripe for growth, pun very much intended. AI.
Oh, that was bad.
It's dad jokes. AI.
David's favorite topic.
Yeah, we have to talk about AI. But it does seem like food production is an area where AI could really lend itself in terms of being able to handle inspection of organic, matter and parts and products or whatever that are in different orientations and every piece of chicken breast or orange or whatever, they're all different. Talk a little bit about that. Where do you see AI fitting in when it comes to food inspection? But where else is AI adding actual value on the factory floor or beyond the factory floor today?
Well, I do like the topic. It's it's a broad topic when we talk about, excuse me, AI and imaging. But just starting with the food side, food, as you are alluding to, is just a natural, again, pun intended, a natural product that is conducive to the use of AI for for inspection of the various things that we need to do in food. Being a natural product, the natural product variations are difficult to identify in rule-based processing, or algorithmic-based processing, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And it has been a real boon to that type of an industry, or to that industry and others, to have AI in terms of segmentation, classification, be able to identify the objects and the features that are necessary in that space. And back to something Dale said, this includes using specialized imaging along with AI to get the image that's necessary and then extract the data from that image. So definitely food is a good, a huge use case, and it will and has benefited directly from AI. That said, AI's, as you know, my take on that is not one thing that solves everything for all of us in machine vision, and we found the better implementations of AI in machine vision make use of a complementary mix of both algorithmic and AI functions.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I think another area that AI is quite interesting for food production, like in food production, yeah, I guess traditionally we've seen visible imaging, which is looking at the color of the fruit or the color of the vegetable,
Right.
and maybe sorting based on that or shape and size. But increasingly, there's also other criterion that food producers find important to inspect, and it could be things like sugar content or protein content, or things that aren't immediately in the visible spectrum.
Right.
And so that's where spectroscopy and SWIR imaging and other technologies are helping to isolate different things about the food quality that provides more of the data. And AI in the use of that is able, again, instead of just a rules-based approach, you have a combination of different sensing elements or characteristics that you need to combine together.
And in something like hyperspectral imaging, particularly in the shortwave infrared wavelengths, that imaging data extraction has been definitely improved by the capability of AI in the classification side of the spectral signatures. So definitely a strong use case in there.
Yeah, and then even beyond the processing side of it and the efficiencies that are created there, you can use these technologies once it's picked to determine how far from production to consumer, right? You can make predictive, and so you can reduce waste, right? Because if I grow an orange here, I can predict the ripeness and how far out it would be fresh. So there's benefits even beyond just the production, and I think a lot of that comes from these technologies
Excellent
as well.
point.
Yeah. Isn't that an extension too of the fact of the smart factory big data idea? Is that we provide the data, but with the advent of AI, it gives the manufacturers or those creating that software the ability to make some of those predictive decisions as they use the information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've talked about SWIR a number of times already, and we mentioned hyperspectral imaging, which is interesting always because traditionally hyperspectral has been a very expensive solution, right? So normally you'd use hypersystems to identify your spectral bands, optimize in a multispectral, and go to market. We haven't talked about time of flight or that type of approach for 3D sensing and everything. So, Jason, do you have any thoughts in terms of beyond or
You are the future. Across industries, you are bringing people together from all backgrounds and skill levels to unlock the potential of automation. To make higher quality products with unprecedented precision. To deliver what people need when and where they need it. Forging safer, higher paying careers for those in the industry now and for generations to come. Your technologies are saving lives, helping to feed millions of people around the globe, creating a greener future while sustaining the heart of our manufacturing industry. Over the last year, you've driven innovation, deployed new technologies, and helped us build the largest Automate show ever. There are now a record number of you, our A3 members, and you inspire us with your hard work and commitment to excellence. You are the Association for Advancing Automation.
where the sensor is going and what's cool and hot? And
Yeah,
sensor?
I mean, I believe, these technologies are trending in the right direction. But I think we're going to see even smarter CMOS chips that are doing things on chip that help, from a design perspective, help companies that manufacture cameras, as well as create different features for specific markets. So I think this is actually a very exciting part of the industry that we'll start to see hit market this year, as well as next year.
Now, is that primarily for data processing, or is this actually going to enable new features and stuff that maybe the audience isn't as aware of?
Yeah, I believe the latter. Yeah, I think there's things that these technologies are being used today, but I think we'll see others that are not in the market today that will very much complement what's there, as well as give us new ideas.
Fantastic. Please, Dale, I know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think another application for time of flight, or one of the applications that seems to be a target is in human safety. And it can be in a work cell environment where you need to understand, how far away an operator is from a certain piece of equipment.
Right.
And I think the integration of these technologies, like let's say with long wave infrared, where you can now actually assess the thermal signature and say that's not just an object, that's a person.
Right.
How far away they are, or for autonomous vehicles, where you can say, okay, when the bus stops, we have to make sure, everybody is clear before we restart again. And so being able to measure distance as well as measuring, the thermal signature or something to say this is a person, not just a lamppost,
Right.
is important.
Are the component costs going to come down to when you're actually going to be able to deploy that widely? I know it's always been a bit of a bugaboo.
For sure, it's all volume related, right?
Right.
Just like LiDAR systems in cars and
Right.
SWIR imaging for computing.
Cool. I know we had a couple of new sensors come out a few years ago with Sony's chip and someone else, but they were still pricing them at 12 grand, I think 12 to 15 or something in that ballpark.
You will see correction in this side of the business to build product. I think there is the market itself and the numbers, but as you see, you'll see it trending down.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, that's how those things go, right? As component costs go down, up to distribution, installations, and the unit.
Well, one of the things that has always driven component costs down is demand and usage.
Right.
And that's part of the problem here. And I love to hear the discussions about 3D, and time of flight, of course, being a 3D technology.
Right.
In that, as we find, as the marketplace finds more and more applications and is more and more comfortable with implementing that sort of technology in applications, it stands to reason that the costs are going to come down.
For sure.
SWIR is kind of mysterious technology right now for many. Hyperspectral certainly is kind of a mysterious technology, but and so it's not as widely implemented. I'm excited. I think 3D, SWIR, hyperspectral, including time of flight in 3D, are things that are going to continue to be more widely implemented, and then we'll have cheaper costs.
There you go. There you go.
Well, especially with the release of the newer Sony chips, right? Those are less expensive, aren't they? You're going to make these cameras more accessible to people than ever before, right?
Well, the Sony chip, the depth sense you're talking about, and similar chips that they've released have opened up recognition of the products and made it more of a commodity to create the items. It's no longer very difficult to create a time-of-flight camera because you implement the Sony chip.
Right.
Still, I think the market has to embrace that, and we as technicians have to be able to specify it better into the marketplace.
Absolutely.
Or I should say more often into the marketplace.
So, Dale, I got to ask you, we haven't gotten into line scan. Teledyne being one of the leader suppliers of line scan cameras in the world. What's hot in there? What's beyond TDI and super high speed? Where are we going?
Well, we've gone our next step actually in super high speed, and we now have a new camera that runs at 1 megahertz line rate. So, and these kind of line rates are being requested by several different industries.
Right.
You know, where does it stop? I think there's always that push for lower cost, and if you're trying to inspect very small feature size and you have to inspect a large area, well, you need something that's very fast or it takes a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that's one aspect. The other aspect is you know, we've talked about having different inspections, different angles of inspection, different characteristics or filters that people are looking at. The intention really is to get more detail about what I'm inspecting, so I can tell, for example, if it's a defect, maybe I can also tell the material that it is, so I know which part of my process I have to fix. You know, if it's, for example, in glass manufacturing, you know, if you're starting to see particulates, and it could be the refractory materials that are actually breaking down,
Right.
and you need to, you know, replace something upstream. So I think, you know, it becomes as customers find that, oh, imaging is really good to improve our yield, now they want more detail about what exactly do I need to improve so that I can, you know, I can fix my process. So, you know, it adds further cost improvement to their process as they, and we talked about this before, as they find more applications for, okay, I'm doing this imaging now, and now I realize I can also do this.
Right.
So in line scan also, because it's, you're taking the data line by line, the other advantage is you can start to process that data faster. So you don't have to wait until you get a frame, and then you transfer that frame, and then you process it on a frame.
Yeah.
And customers are starting to realize, oh, you know, it could be an advantage. I can actually process faster if I look at, you know, a thin rectangle, let's say, of image data. And for some products, like for example, if you're sorting nuts or seeds, you know, you don't necessarily need a whole frame of data before you can actually start your processing. So you can actually speed up, you know, the applications by doing that. So
Right.
that's been a win for some customers as well.
And that kind of touches a little bit on what you were talking about earlier, Jason, right, with the smart cameras bringing additional processing right on chip.
Correct. I think there's two parts. I think the chips, you'll start to see more you know, specific data driven from the chip level, but then from the compute side as well. Obviously, as we're getting to GPUs and we start to work in processing, we're able to process more closer to the problem, and so I think that's another area that we'll see as well.
Absolutely.
Just out of curiosity, Dale and David, I guess this would be a good question for you. Actually, Jason, all three of you guys. But what are some of those applications, right? I mean, you think of line scan imaging and web inspection, right? It's textiles and you mentioned glass. What are some of the applications where they're demanding higher speeds and new capabilities? Just out of curiosity.
Well, one of the biggest ones right now, and we're seeing it, you know, here in the U.S. and a number of other countries, is the ability to inspect semiconductors. So today, semiconductor production continues to increase. You know, we're using semiconductors all over the place, and more in different applications like electric cars. All these things demand semiconductors. So the inspection of those and the yield that you get from those is very dependent on inspection. And so when you're looking at a semiconductor you know, today I think it's at 3 nanometer and soon 2 nanometer type patterning, and even the ones that aren't at those advanced nodes. You need very small wavelength of light, and you need very small feature sizes. Well, when you're inspecting in, let's say, sub-micron, now you need very fast in order to process the 300 millimeter wafer. So these are the kinds of things that are driving speed and driving line scan in some of the advanced markets. The other ones is in medicine, and today there's a lot of genetic material or proteomics or things that have fluorescence imaging.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at the cellular level and you're trying to catch fluorescence from those cellular components, you need very high magnification. And so, in order to process that, you need very high speed. And TDI is one of those technologies that, because you have the multiple exposures, you can have very small amount of light that's fluorescing off the material, and you're able to actually differentiate between the different components.
It's not just, those are important tasks, but sometimes maybe some of the more mundane tasks have been improved by the higher speed line scan as well. Line scan, of course, has long been a target, not only a target, but an indicated technology for moving web applications in a variety of things. You mentioned printing, textiles, and so on. In some of these cases, the product has always been moving extremely fast. And in integrating even a line scan application, we find that we had to sample. We still had to sample images. In other words, we sample for a short period of time and then take the image, or then process the image. At the higher rates, with the data coming in faster, we have more often been able to achieve continuous acquisition of the surface and not drop out. And that's just one example. But certainly the higher speed line scan is going to be a boon for many of these applications.
Are the optics keeping up with these? All these sensor advances that we're talking about. The larger the area becomes really tricky, to design and develop. And in some cases, the optic will maybe the thing that breaks an application, right? Because it's just so expensive compared to the sensor. And it seems very hard to fix that because it's just basic physics, right? It is what it is.
Well, there's a lot of metasurface optics and things that are coming today as well, which enable different ways to solve the problem.
Awesome.
So, yeah, for sure, changes in optics are very interesting.
Beautiful. So we've talked a lot about illumination. I'm going to throw one back to the AI crowd here again. So I understand that there's discussion about whether AI means illumination is no longer relevant, right? We don't care about the shape of the photon. Is that what we can expect? Is AI going to solve all of our problems with lighting?
No, I think, all those that have worked with these projects and tried to, solve these problems, right there, you can't totally get there, right, when we talk about AI and creating these systems. And one thing I've seen on our side is they're starting to use synthetic data to try to offset what couldn't be done with cameras just collecting a bunch of real-world data and trying to create application. So yeah, purely with just ambient light, that's not a solution to get you all the way there, certainly.
The real underlying point of competent illumination with machine vision, or any kind, if we're going to call it computer vision, machine vision, AI vision, whatever we want to call it, is in a manufacturing environment to create reliability and repeatability. Ambient light, I really say this without equivocation, ambient light cannot do that in the manufacturing environment. And so, there was early on, and there still are people saying today, oh, we can do all the AI, we have AI, we can do it all with ambient illumination. You can, up to a certain point. But you're not, you can't risk a manufacturing environment and the reliability and the precision of the inspection or the robotic guidance or whatever it is you're doing. You can't risk that in a manufacturing environment by not competently implementing suitable illumination. And even with AI, the illumination is there to try to create better contrast between the features you like and the features you don't like. And ambient light just can't do that and can't do it reliably.
Right.
So
Yeah, if we fail to pick an apple on an apple tree, right, it's not the end of the world. But if we produce 1,000 widgets with any kind of investment cost.
Yeah, I think it's a good point too, from machine vision to computer vision and where we fall. But those where you can't standardize lighting, right, very dynamic, and some of these innovative projects. Again, going back, I think people are trying to get to that final piece with synthetic data, and I do think that's pretty interesting. I think that's the area that you can close that final gap.
Gotcha. Dale, you look like you had a thought there, man.
Well, I was just saying, like in some applications, like if you're inspecting automotive parts, for example, I mean, they're looking for, you know, PPMs, single-digit PPMs, you know, and so you need consistency as much as possible,
Right.
in order to get a consistent result.
Yeah.
Now, it's not to say that, you know, there aren't advances that you can use, certainly in slower applications that you can use, you know, ambient light. It really comes down to the physics of how many photons can you collect per unit time.
Right.
But it really kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve. So.
Yeah, as well as what's at risk and
Exactly.
what can be lost if it doesn't come through proper.
We've talked a lot about, you know, some of the latest advancements in vision from AI and SWIR and hyperspectral and 3D, but what other recent advancements out there in vision, and maybe it's in vision standards, are you guys excited about right now?
I think that the advances at the moment in the marketplace are subtle, but important to the technologies. I personally don't see and I think we've heard a couple of possibilities of things that could be advances, but I don't see something that is a game changer in the industry right now, technologically. That said, though, the subtle advances in usability, in software, in the packaging of the components and packaging of the devices into more of a system-based or solution-based device or whatever, I think that those kind of subtle advances have perhaps not been advertised as much in the last 5 years, but those are the things that are really pushing machine vision forward, I think. 3D imaging is one of those, and we've mentioned it already, but the 3D imaging devices that are available on the marketplace are totally different than what they were 5 to 10 years ago. Right. You can pull a device right out of the box and set it up and have it deliver a calibrated image to a piece of processing app in 30 minutes. and be analyzing a 3D image. And that's just one example, but that's a strong example of how this subtle change in some of these existing technologies is moving forward.
Gotcha.
And I would say maybe 3 elements. One is ease of use, as David mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
being able to use the technology faster for factory floor skill set to be able to pick up and actually implement that faster.
Right.
And maybe that's not new, but it certainly continues to accelerate.
Mhm.
I think as these technologies come down in price and they get, as Jason mentioned, more integrated into, at the chip level,
Mhm.
the overall prices come down, so that
Yeah.
allows those technologies to be able to be used in more applications now,
Mhm.
instead of just, sort of high value applications. It can hit more, much broader base of applications.
Yeah.
And just the integration of features together. And I said, one of
Yeah.
the ones that I said is time of flight and thermal. So when you
Certainly.
integrate these things together, you're actually able to do something significantly more than either of them could do independently.
Right.
And I think we're going to see more of that as well in the coming year.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think, to get the adoption that's needed, I think that's on all of us to not only make the technologies aware, but make sure that they can, coexist with one another, work well together, is very important for us as well. Because if you have a very good technology that's on its own but does not, work with others, it doesn't really have ability to scale. So I think that's actually something for us that's important. And I think the standards is key, right? We saw that with UV Vision and USB Vision, what that does for people to be able to adopt these technologies quicker. So I think that's actually a challenge for us as we get more innovative and get these newer technologies to keep up with that, so that the adoption rate can be equally as quick as our standard products today.
When I hear you guys talking, and it makes me think about embedded vision systems, right? So many of these systems for the largest volume scale are going to be done by non-traditional machine vision companies. But I've always wondered, what part do we play? What part does traditional machine vision play when helping, transitioning this technology to the high volumes, whether it's an automotive car maker or John Deere or whatever we're looking at?
So we've been working on those since 2019.
Okay.
And the reality is it's fragmented because you have compute, you have an OS level, you have a different sensor. And so it's very difficult, right, back to David's point, to be able to package that, to make it, to put it in a position to be adopted is the challenge for all of us. And so we play, but yeah, we have to play together. And I think what often happens is people start to play generalist. And so then you kind of step out of your expertise to try to figure something out when it's fragmented.
Right.
And I think the reality is if the specialists stick together and start to work together and collaborate, I think this is the way that you can truly push this into our industry. And I think that's our opportunity.
Gotcha. Well, that offers huge potential. I mean, the growth of embedded vision.
Definitely.
Even if we're not directly making, those Caterpillar vehicles, or actually, we probably are making them, inspecting their welds and every other thing. But if Caterpillar is still making their own, that's all, just the acceptance, the general awareness and knowledge, it seems like creating, you were talking to Eve about how to make these systems more applicable for factory lower floor workers and how do they intuit. I mean, the cell phone's probably gone a long way down that path of getting people more familiar with imaging and how lighting affects it, and smart just finding patterns, taking your photo bomber out of your shot real quick.
I think that's also a challenge for us in imaging, right? That everybody assumes your phone, right? We talked about that earlier, that, it must be this quality, and this is imaging, and I think that's, where we have to kind of correct course and really get people back to actual machine vision and computer vision requirements.
So were you implying that people think that their phone should be able to be a machine vision system, essentially? Because I mean, I've heard that bandied around.
I've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've seen that, and that machine vision system should be like your iPhone.
Right.
Right. So you see both sides of it.
That goes back to the imaging, though.
Right.
The same thing is true always, is that
Right.
you can't hold up your phone and make it reliable
Right.
and precise in terms of extracting the data from, or creating an image from which data can be extracted. It just doesn't work. You could make it happen in some very constrained cases, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think that's as we have people coming into our industry because imaging is important, particularly from the software side. That's our responsibility to train them and truly let them know what the requirements are.
Well, you mentioned embedded. I think embedded is an interesting thing in our industry, maybe a little bit misunderstood. Sometimes I'm not sure what embedded is in our industry.
Right.
But when we do think about board level cameras, system on chip, and so on, and I know both Imaging Source and Teledyne have these kind of products, and I've used them myself. I think it's very interesting to continue to try to find ways that embedded can be successful and be viable in manufacturing. One of the problems is that in order for it to be worth my while as an integrator to use embedded, I have to have a solution or a use case that would use many multiples of them, because the non-recurring engineering up front to get that to work, not to get it to work, but to integrate it into a coherent solution is quite a lot. And so you save money on the embedding, but you spend a lot more time in engineering. I'm excited about it. I'm working on a couple of embedded applications right now that I think have promise, and I think as people again come to understand it more, we'll see more usage.
Awesome. I'm just glad we're getting some, that we're able to participate more
Yes.
and more in that. Yeah. And especially as you pointed out, high volume chip on board or camera on boards are making that happen.
The opportunity is big because it creates an efficiency, right?
Yeah.
So you have kind of specialized hardware closer to the physics of problems that you can solve. So yeah, if we get it right, the potential is very big.
It is.
Are there other technologies? So we've talked about these, right? And like 3D is one, and David, we've been talking about this for years. Like 3D now is you could say it's kind of come of age, and especially with things like lower cost 3D, like with the availability of RealSense. Are there any other technologies, or maybe it's something we've already discussed, but are there any other technologies you could see as kind of being a breakthrough in the next couple of years, becoming more readily available? Like maybe SWIR, for example, with the new Sony sensors. Like, will SWIR start to finally gain traction in the market, or anything else?
Well, that's a broad question, Jimmy.
Yes, it is. It's kind of like, is there anything cool that we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah.
That scenario.
There is a bunch of cool stuff. There's always cool stuff coming up. It's just, let me mention the SWIR first. So Sony VizSWIR, great product. It does, once again, commoditize the SWIR cameras. There are limitations to that camera, to that sensor, and to a camera that uses that sensor, both including its capability, signal noise, and also its the limit of its wavelength response, where in some cases we want to go to upwards of 2100, 2500 nanometers in SWIR, and Sony tops off at around 1700. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be used. It just means that we have to know the technology, and in any of these cases, know the technology and be able to integrate it competently. So I do like those kind of product lines. But one other thing I'll just make a mention, where you ask about emerging and brand new and weird technologies. Excuse me. One of the other things is that we see technologies out there, I see technologies out there that are really nice technologies, but I call them technologies searching for a use case.
Right.
They're out there searching for a use case. One of these I loved seeing when it first emerged from Prophecy is the event sensor. Great product. Now Sony has taken them under their wing as they have other technologies. But it still, to me, there are some dedicated and good targeted use cases, but in general purpose machine vision, it's still, to me, a technology seeking a use case. And we see that quite often in these really brand new and cutting edge technologies, is they're great. They look exciting. They really are, very, very interesting. But how they have to mature a little bit before we find, as integrators and end users, before we find good use cases for those kind of things.
Chicken and egg.
Chicken
right?
and egg.
Can't
Yeah.
develop applications till you got the
There you go.
hardware.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
You know.
I think the software part is also important.
Yes.
Definitely.
A lot of times we
Yes.
talk about these technologies and the chips and the data that comes from them, but it's non-trivial with a lot of these. Once you get the data, are you actually able to utilize it? And so I think that's an important part of this as well. As these technologies come out, that the software is not forgotten.
Yeah, well, without question. At least the good news there is that I think there's a whole lot more coders out there than there are FPGA designers or whatever else we're looking for.
But the marketplace, just as a quick pitch here, the marketplace needs more machine vision engineers. No question. We need more machine vision engineers who can look at a problem, create a design, and implement a design either in code or in configurable software.
Yeah.
We really need more engineers.
And that gets back to training, and it's not, you don't see a whole lot of college curriculum where you've got computer vision built into it. More so now than ever before. And I know A3 is of course working on that. I think, David, you've spent most of your life training people in the machine vision space.
Yeah.
But I agree. It's I flashed to like Coursera and AI. And we just need that ability to push more out to younger people and make it alive. And we see that in every automation space. I mean, I know programs like, what is it? Is it Champion, which is a good friend of mine for teaching them on CNC work. And it's a rather long acronym. Don't ask me what each letter stands for, but it does have a point. So, any other last thoughts, Jimmy?
No, not really. I mean, that's my fun one always to ask is, do you have any predictions for the next couple of years? And we've sort of covered that, but if anybody does have any, especially if they're bold, I'll love to hear those.
It's easy to make bold predictions when you aren't, when you're not required to be right.
Those are the best kind. Hey, and this is good.
Futurists have it great. Futurists, have predicted or originally predicted we'd be exploring space by 2020, but we're not. We're not that much exploring space.
Yeah.
Futurists have it great. They don't ever have to be right. So we could certainly give you a bunch of
It's actually
predictions.
counterproductive, right? Because if you're right every time, you can't write a new book every 3 years.
That's right.
You have to talk to the science fiction writers. They'll give you the-
Yeah. I think
do
you'll see collaborations at the specialist level with equal parts in and equal parts out. That's my prediction. There's a lot of collaboration, with a lot of companies, but I think you'll see a true, equal parts in, equal parts out, specialists getting together to push things forward. I think you'll see this in the next few years.
More collaboration would be, would you say that's a change? I mean, has it always been that way, or are we?
Well, I think there's different layers of collaboration, where I can take your component and make it work with my component, but what if both lanes are developing a technology together with their level of expertise for the common good of pushing things forward, because typically there's always a separation. I think you'll start to see this as the market, it's challenging now in certain parts of the world, but I think this will drive that initiative.
Indeed.
Any final thoughts, Dale? I mean, you're one of the biggest machine vision. You work for one of the largest machine vision companies on the planet. So, and you're connected to a lot of other amazing technology companies.
Well, and I guess that is one advantage within Teledyne, because we have so much technology generation.
Yeah.
It's a frequent occurrence to work together and be able to say, okay, actually we can borrow some of this technology, or we can work together with another group.
Right.
And we are currently doing that in a number of technologies that not all of which we are ready to promote.
He's not dropping any Easter eggs today. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking your time today. I know it's been a busy day. We're getting ready for the A3 Business Forum to kick off tomorrow morning, so it's such a pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys. If anybody has any questions for any of these guys, feel free to reach out to us at manufacturing-matters.com, and thanks for tuning in.
Till next time.